From the Dallas On Air studios in beautiful Dallas, Texas, this is Fulfillment here on DallasOnAir.com. And now here are your hosts, the Vegabomber and the Film Samurai.
Well, welcome, everybody. How y'all doing?
Hey, what's up?
That's right. Well, we have a very special edition. Not that any of the other editions aren't special, but somebody here has a birthday coming up.
Tomorrow.
It's actually tomorrow.
Turning 30 tomorrow.
You're turning 30 again tomorrow. So what we thought we would do today, this actually, as we thought about it, I thought, this might be a great time to help you fans out there that have been watching and supporting Fulfillment this time, and we want to thank you all for doing so, is to kind of get a chance to get to know us just a little bit better. And so why not make this kind of like the Carlos episode, because how many of you really know the film Samurai? And so now you can judge him because he's going to tell us about his list today. That's what we thought we would do, about his greatest movies. And by the way, depending on what he picks, you can find out whether he's a sellout and he's just picking the corporate films, or if he's really as deep as we think he is and he's got a bunch of films you've never heard of. But today, that's one of the things we're going to do. And of course, we've brought back the picks of the week. We've also got our Just Seen It and the MILF, which we'll talk a little bit about that in the last segment. So without all of the extra ado, Carlos does have a birthday coming tomorrow. We've got stuff ready for him. Today, let's just find out a little bit more about the film Samurai. So take it away.
Okay, let's go through these. These are my, what PJ suggests I take all my genre films, Western, horror, adventure, comedy, film noir, everything, and kind of give not so much what I think is the greatest of these genres, but what I think, or first of all, they're my favorites, or films that I think kind of encapsulate that genre almost, which all quality films. Something I could recommend. Okay, I want to start watching fantasy film. Which one do you think might make a good one to watch? Okay, this one. So let's go. Let's start with one of the big ones, action movies.
Action. Okay, I'm ready to hear this.
Die Hard, right? Okay. But I picked Terminator 2, James Cameron's 1991 sequel to Terminator. I think that's a great action film. It moves, the way it moves. The pacing of it, Arnold, iconic. The action, that chase scene at the end, So I love that movie. Action, as far as action movies.
T2 for action.
My favorite. Adventure. I picked Treasure of the Sierra Madre. I think that's probably one of the ultimate adventure films. It's two men, and then they pick up another guy, John Huston, who actually directed his father, Walter Huston, as the old prospector in this film. It's a great film. It's a classic. If you've ever seen this movie, you'll never forget it. I've seen it, a few times now, and it gets better every time. One of my favorite thrillers, I would say, is a movie called Sorcerer, William Friedkin film. Came out 1977, the same weekend Star Wars came out.
You're kidding me.
So nobody heard of this movie.
That's right.
Nobody went to see Star Wars. But this movie is amazing. Roy Scheider comes down in it, and basically it's a story of these kind of criminal-type characters from different parts of the world. One guy's a European from French mob or something. Roy Scheider's like a Guido from New Jersey, a mob guy, made man. Well, they all end up in South America working for this mining company, and they tell them, okay, they're kind of trapped there. They can't make enough money to move away from there. So they at one point they say, we got to ship this dynamite from this town to this town and drive them in 2 trucks. And if you can do it, we're going to pay you bonus, but it's super dangerous, of course.
Right.
You can't be, moving those crates around full of dynamite. So this movie is like nonstop, like edge of your seat. Are they going to make it across this rope bridge with these big trucks, these cargo trucks?
Oh my!
Great film, Sorcerer.
And this is a William Friedkin film. That's
Yes.
The director of The Exorcist, right?
Exactly.
Correct.
So this is kind of like a follow-up to.
It came out in 77, so Exorcist of what, 72, 74?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I
it was,
think so.
it was after
Yeah.
that. It's funny because there's a real quick shot of one of the front of the trucks. There's kind of like a demon scrawled on it, and it looks like Pazuzu from The Exorcist. And I always
How about that?
I wonder if that was like an homage.
That's a bit of a deep cut.
Okay, let's go on. Crime film. One of my favorite crime films. Heat has to be.
Heat,
Man,
yes,
Heat, yeah,
yes.
1995. De Niro, Pacino. Gives a point of view from the cops and a point of view from the criminals. You know, what the life of a criminal is. He's always got to be prepared to run away if the heat's around the corner.
Probably Val Kilmer's best film,
Val
right?
Kilmer. that gun shootout after the bank heist. It's one of my great scenes. That airport scene at the end.
Yeah.
One of the best endings. You know, that soundtrack. Beautiful film. Love it. One of my favorite horror films. I went with The Thing. John Carpenter, Kurt Russell. Great classic movie. Very claustrophobic, very intense, very when they're doing the testing with the blood, you know, that scene is just perfection, man. One of John Carpenter's best films. That movie flopped, interestingly enough, when it came out.
Isn't that crazy?
But then it came out. I mean, over time, like a lot of films, like Blade Runner, kind of flopped when it came out.
Yeah.
And it still holds up. The special effects, you know, they used the practical effects, no CGI back then, so it was great. Supernatural. I went with a movie called The Others.
The Others.
Alejandro Amenabar, Spanish director.
Yeah.
And it's a Spanish production. I think it was actually shot in Spain as well. Nicole Kidman is in it. It's a very good mood piece. It takes place in one location. It's a house, you know, kind of a interesting twist towards the end. And I think it's one of Nicole Kidman's actually best performances in a movie. I really like it. From the first time I saw it in a theater, man, and one scene in it made me scream out loud.
Really?
I mean, it like
it was that
me. Yeah,
visceral. It was that
good. Yeah.
Oh man!
It just, and since I've watched it, then I couldn't figure out, well, why did that scene shock me that much? But at the point, you know, first time you're watching something like that, it shocks you, surprises you, know. So, but man, it still holds up. I still watch it like once every year or a couple of years, you know. Favorite war films? I went with Full Metal Jacket.
Yes.
Stanley Kubrick.
Yes.
1987. I like it because it shows the point of view of the guy's training, and then it goes into the war.
Yeah.
And it shows the futility of war, the absurdity of war, you know. Matthew Modine as Private Joker. Just one great sequence after another, especially the training in the beginning and Sergeant what was his name? Arlie Ermey.
Sorry,
Private Powell. I didn't know they polished it that high. All his stuff, man, is just awesome, incredible.
Yeah, Arlie Ermey in
Arlie
that film.
Ermey, yeah.
Dear God.
Yes.
And he's been in other things. He was in Seven as the police captain. He's just
Yeah.
great. Even in his cameos, man, he's just great. Best prison film, I went with Cool Hand Luke.
Yep.
1967, Stuart Rosenberg, Paul Newman. I think one of my favorite Paul Newman films. And that movie is so, to me, it's like a heartbreaking film, you know, especially towards the end. Strother Martin, one of the greatest. You have here a favor to communicate. This is like classic, you know. Even
Quotable.
Guns
Put it on a
N'
T-shirt.
Roses used it in one of their songs, right?
That's right. Put on a T-shirt, coffee mug, keychains, jump drive.
That boiled egg eating scene is great. Oh, the car wash scene. Oh. Best foreign film. I went with this movie called La Notte. It's Michelangelo Antonioni, director, Italian director. Black and white. It came out in 1961, the year I was born.
Yeah.
Monica Vitti, you know, Bella. She's beautiful in this movie. It's just a great movie. It's just beautifully shot and made. It's one of those, you know, the French New Wave came out at this time, so the movie, it didn't have really a structure or a real story. It's just a person and things happening to that person, and then it goes and goes and goes until the end. And some of the endings are kind of like, okay, you just kind of leave it open. But to me, it's just an amazing film. I'll watch that probably once a year as well. Best Western, or not best Western, but my favorite Western. I went with Unforgiven, Clint Eastwood.
See, now I know that was a tough one for you. There's some several good Westerns out there.
I love Western is probably one of my favorite genres, and I love I love the classic, the old spaghetti Westerns. I love the classic John Wayne, The Searchers, that type of traditional Western. But Unforgiven, I like it because it doesn't romanticize the West. The Western characters, the gunfighters. Clint Eastwood's character is a guy who was a gunfighter, killed people, but he quit. He was a heavy drinker and he quit alcohol. Promised his wife he'd never touch alcohol again. But it comes a time where he gets offered a job to go kill somebody. Some rancher work hands had scarred a girl. They were, she was a whore in a saloon. He cut her face, and then all the whores pull their money together to hire somebody to kill that guy.
Yeah.
And so it's him and Morgan Freeman, and then they meet up with the Schofield kid, this young kid. And that scene where the Schofield kid kills somebody is a devastating scene because it does show the consequences of killing a man. And that kid, once he did it, he said, I can't do this. I can't do this anymore. I don't want to do it. And so that movie was like, it doesn't, in the old days, the gunfighters, they 3 o'clock, noon, we're going to have a gunfight in the street and we're going to kill people. And then it's like, okay, you kill a guy and then he walks away and, they don't show the devastation of what is it like, killing, man, it takes its toll on you.
Yeah.
So that movie is amazing for that.
Oh.
And interesting enough, they made a Japanese remake of it with Ken Watanabe.
Really?
And I had a hard time.
Let them fight.
I had to order overseas import, and it's just basically it's not really a shot for shot remake, but it is a remake of it, and it's almost like that time in Japan is almost that time here in the U.S. And it's the same story though. But Ken Watanabe does an amazing job. That guy is just. I watched Last Samurai last night.
Yeah.
Perfect. He's so great in that.
With Tom Cruise.
Best favorite comedy, Three Amigos, John Landis.
Three Amigos. Was that pretty hard to try to pick out of all the comedies? Or no?
Not really, because Three Amigos is a movie. Every scene makes me laugh. Most comedies to me, especially nowadays, new comedies don't make me laugh at all.
Right.
They're not funny to me. The type of comedy that it's evolved to is just not my type of comedy.
Yeah.
I like absurdist, real absurd, like The Jerk, those little Steve Martin.
Oh my gosh. Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid.
Exactly. Yeah. Those kind of movies, just pouring the coffee out and the coffee just keeps going and going and going. And so I like that type of stuff. And this one was, Martin Short, Steve Martin, Chevy Chase at the top of their game, man.
Yeah.
That one scene where they're all running out of water. And Chevy Chase is and he throws his canteen and he puts a lip balm on. All the other guys are like, and they're all like, Martin Short, his canteen is filled with sand. It's just like one scene after it is perfect. I love that movie.
Wow, so that's hard pick, folks, because you got like stuff like Blazing Saddles, Airplane, Monty Python's The Holy Grail. You've got some really heavy hitter type stuff. So, yeah.
Animal House,
yeah.
A lot of John Landis movies.
Fletch.
What was it? Invisible Man? Memoirs of Invisible Man. Didn't Chevy Chase do an Invisible Man movie? Historical movie. I went with Glory.
Oh, wow.
The Edward Zwick film from 1989. Denzel Washington.
Yes.
Roderick. That movie is just stunning, man. It's just so great. That final charge against the fort, but the build up to it, the interaction of this white officer and this black regiment, and the reveal of Denzel. They take his shirt off, man. His back is just scarred.
Yeah.
He whips him, man. He's just looking at him, and tears just coming down his eyes. That scene just destroys me every time.
Yeah.
Favorite mystery, and this is my favorite mystery, not just a movie I'd recommend, or is Chinatown, Roman Polanski, 1974.
Yeah.
Still holds up to this day. I watch it probably about once a year. It's got one of the most devastating endings you'll ever see. Jack Nicholson, probably one of my favorite roles because he's very understated. He doesn't do the overacting like he does sometimes. His Gittes, the detective, Jake. It's just great. I love it. Musical, I went with All That Jazz, the Bob Fosse film.
Fosse in the house.
1979. That's actually pretty erotic movie. That one performance number that they do.
Yeah.
It's just all women and they're all in these body stockings. But the Roy Scheider performance of this, I think this is probably, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know for sure. I didn't look it up, but I wouldn't be surprised if he either nominated or won an Academy Award for this role because it was so good. The opening scene, he's taking a shower and he's smoking in the shower. He's like he's an addictive personality, but and then he's got heart problems, you know. And he's overworked and he's under pressure.
Have you had a chance to watch Fosse Verdon yet?
I've heard about it and I want to watch that.
Sincerely, if you dig the Bob Fosse story, and they do go into a little bit of All That Jazz, but it really is not only a grandstanding performance by Sam Rockwell as Bob Fosse, but also
he's perfect for that role, man. Because he's a dancer. I mean, you've seen him in a lot of movies. He'll break out dancing.
But Michelle Williams as Gwen Verdon is devastating.
Wow, Michelle Williams, I love her.
Really do check that out.
Okay,
because
I'll put that on my list.
Every episode of that show is cinematic, and it's really good. So,
man,
I dig that. I dig that.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay, spy movie. I went with Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
Okay. I think I've seen that.
The 2011 Tomas Alfredson, English movie, all English actors. Of course, the book, John le Carre book, took place. You know, they call it the circus. You know, this group of is it MI5, I guess. But Gary Oldman, probably one of my favorite roles as Smiley. There's some scenes in there that are just hypnotic to watch him work. Toby Jones, the whole cast is great. Mark Strong's in it. I wish there'd been more of Mark Strong in it, but he had probably one of the best roles. Colin Firth, great ending. I love the ending of it.
Yeah.
Sci-fi. Whoa. Okay, this one's really hard because I grew up on sci-fi. I bought Starlog magazine, you know, it's Cinefantastique. Just to get all the latest. That's when you got your movie news back then, is, you know, the magazines.
Yeah.
And so when they came out and you saw those stills of Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back, you just couldn't get enough of it. For this one, I mean, obviously 2001 is probably
Space Odyssey.
Probably one of the greatest. But in terms of, okay, this movie, Blade Runner, has it all. You know, it's got androids, flying ships, the visuals. It is very futuristic, you know, for that time, and already that time where it supposedly takes place, it's like come and gone, right?
Yeah.
It's supposed to like 2018 was it set in? And Harrison Ford, of course, iconic role. And like I said, that movie kind of flopped. Nobody got it, you know. But later, it more people appreciated it over the years. And Ridley Scott, probably one of his best films.
Yeah.
And there's like 3 or 4 different versions of it. You know, there's the director's cut, and then there's one with voiceover, which everybody hates. I kind of like that one. It's not bad. I like it because it gives that. It's almost like film noir, you know.
Yeah.
And he's like that Sam Spade almost, you know. So probably one of my favorite sci-fi films. Political thriller, I went with Manchurian Candidate, the original 1962. John Frankenheimer, Frank Sinatra, Lawrence Harvey, but Angela Lansbury's role in that as the mom.
Yeah.
Ooh, man, talk about a villain.
Yeah.
She was so effective in that role, and it scares me. If I saw that as a kid, I'd probably be scared of her. Best animated film, I went with. I wanted to go with traditional animation, but as far as visually, I thought Rango. Did you ever see Rango?
Rango.
Gore Verbinski, Johnny Depp does the voice of Rango the lizard. That has some of the most incredible visuals, because it's like an old Western sort of.
Mm-hmm. To the iguana, right? And
yeah, it's kind of like one of those lizards that has that kind of conical eye, and kind of goes like this, and it's almost a takeoff of Chinatown, because there's like a water shortage, and the mystery of where's the water coming from, and we're short on water, and the characterization, the comedy, the little visual gags in the background. And there's a great scene where they use the music from Apocalypse Now, the Flight of the Valkyries, where these bats are flying, and it's a big chase scene. It's so cool, and they have like machine guns and everything, and they're chasing them in these wagons and stuff. It's a great sequence.
That's right, and no one hate out there because he didn't pick Fantasia or Lion King or any of those other animated features.
Like if I was to pick one of those, I would go with Pinocchio.
Yeah, absolutely.
Walt Disney. I hate Walt Disney.
Giuseppe.
Pick Walt Disney. I like the old versions. Even Lion King is a great one. But animation wise, it's fine. But there's nothing really visually stunning about it. I was thinking in terms of visual animation, what went into it. Best drama, I went with The Departed, Martin Scorsese movie, the 2006. DiCaprio, great cast.
Even Mark Wahlberg was in there.
A lot of people hate this movie for some reason. I don't know.
Jack Nicholson.
It's great, Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
It's a film that gets better with repeated viewing.
Right.
Because once you know everything about it, then you get to take a look at the nuances.
Exactly.
Because when you talk about Nicholson being so understated in Chinatown, he's way overstated in this one.
He's demonic in this one. There's a scene where he's just smiling. He looks like the devil.
Yeah.
And just these little visuals that Scorsese puts in it. He uses the X a lot throughout the movie, and X means somebody's going to die, somebody's deceased or whatever. And there's a lot of visual things in it. The last one, comic book movie.
Comic book movie, yeah. He saved the best or the worst for last.
And this one I did kind of go with the obvious, but because it's the obvious, I think it's the best.
Absolutely.
The Dark Knight.
Absolutely.
Christopher Nolan. I don't think any comic book movie has topped this in terms of story and when I saw this the first time, I think I told you this story. I saw it in New York City when it premiered, and sitting in that huge theater, that Lowe's theater in Manhattan, and that scene, and this is not a spoiler because by now everybody's seen this.
Sure.
Gordon, when Gordon got shot.
Yeah.
I said, "Oh my God, the audacity! He really killed Commissioner Gordon." And then later on, the reveal of him, capturing the Joker. It's like, fucking hell, this is awesome. And I watch this also like once a year. Usually, what I do, I watch the whole trilogy once every couple of years. Batman Begins is I think that's right behind it.
I agree.
Dark Knight Rises, of course, it's kind of it's to me that's almost a whole different movie because he tried to make it really big. He went big with it.
Yeah.
And some of it's effective, some of it's not. I love Anne Hathaway as Catwoman. I love all the past, Tom Hardy's Bane is amazing. Some things are kind of don't work, but overall, I think it's. I've watched that a ton of times. When it came out in theater, I saw it at least 7 times. Yeah. And I even went out to the IMAX out in Fort Worth, the real big dome IMAX, and watched it there. It was amazing.
And I think that's good too, if I may, because for a long time when it comes to best superhero movie, the debate would be between The Dark Knight and the first Avengers movie. But now the true test of which one really is the best is go back and see which one you most likely would want to watch again.
Right?
And the Avengers movie, you feel like you've already seen it 5 or 6 times now because there's been so many iterations of that. Whereas when you sit down and watch Dark Knight, you don't even have to be a superhero fan to like that movie.
And that movie is almost a movie in itself.
Absolutely it is.
It didn't even need, if you never even knew Batman Begins was, in front of it, just by itself, it's basically like it reminds me of a Michael Mann movie, a crime movie. The way it moves, and I think Nolan was inspired by Heat, with it,
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the scenes. So
yeah, because
Christian
I mean,
Bale, one of my favorite actors, playing Batman, my favorite comic character, and then Christopher Nolan, one of my favorite directors. This movie.
Talk about having all the stars line up for the right thing. Because to that debate, I always tell people, I'm like, well, in just movie history, take out the whole superhero genre, in just movie history, which one do you think would be higher in the charts in terms of being in that top 10 of the greatest movies of all time? It wouldn't be Avengers. It definitely would be Dark Knight. And that's not a DC Marvel thing. It's just one of the greatest movies. And you can watch the Dark Knight. You can watch the whole trilogy once a year, like the way I watch the Star Wars original trilogy once a year. Right. And it's funny because they kind of mirror each other in that sense that Star Wars was good. Empire took it to another level, just like, and then the third one is the one that kind of you saw some of the weaknesses a little bit in Return of the Jedi, and you could see some of the weaknesses in Christopher Nolan's in The Dark Knight Rises. So it's funny how they mirror each other in that way, but the same impact and in the same kind of ways. So
who can forget, Heath Ledger's Joker, man? It's one of the most iconic villain roles ever.
In fact, see, there it is again. I love that you said that. So when you think about best movie villains of all time, in the top 2 or top 3 or top 5, if you want to do it that way, it's going to be Darth Vader, and it's going to be Heath Ledger's Joker. So it's funny how they just kind of mirror each other, even though one was made in the 70s and the other one was made in the 2000s. It's kind of interesting when you look at it from that perspective. Well, guys, that right there is a lot of good work done, some research done, and just to try to make him pick between one baby and his other favorite baby, like pick between his children, right? What a deal there. So we commend him for that, and that's why he's the film samurai, and that's why we celebrate him for his birthday. So go into that next segment that I know you guys are also waiting for today. Let's tell them about the picks of the week, the movies that are about to hit the theaters, and give them an idea. And there's our wiki. Right on target. So, picks of the week. Instead of putting every film we could that's actually possibly coming out, we just took probably the major 4 or 5 ones that come out. In this case, it's just 3. So I'll list them first, and then we'll take a look at them, and then we'll give them our picks as what we do. So first one is, we got a live-action Lion King, somewhat with anime. I don't know, crazy. There's a documentary that had to be made, evidently, because it isn't enough to have 2 gay rockers. Now we have to have an angry, you see it. David Crosby, Remember My Name is the documentary. And then I would say the hopeful pick here, actually, especially if you like the kind of films we like, is Into the Ashes. So let's just start at the top. Let's look at Lion King. Here are the factuals. This is the longest of the 3 movies. It's an hour and 58 minutes, so just a tick under the 2 hours. The director is one of my favorites, Jon Favreau, the guy who blessed us with Iron Man 1 and Chef and a couple other great movies. And some of the standout actors you already know would be people like Seth Rogen, Donald Glover, and I'm sure there's even more.
Beyonce.
Chiwetel Ejiofor, he's really good. So, yeah, Lion King, should they have done this? What do you think?
Yeah, it's like that line. I always use that line from Jurassic Park. Your scientists figured out that they could, but they didn't think about whether they should. Like, okay, yeah, you can make it, but do you really need to make it? Somebody brought up a kind of an interesting point. It says, okay, they're doing these, and they're really advancing the technology, the visuals of film. But okay, you're making CGI animals, but to me, film is really about what's real. These animals are not real. They look real. They look great. I mean, it's fantastic what they did. But
I was reading that didn't they alter footage from some of their documentaries? Like they actually took.
Did they?
They took stuff from the documentaries and edited it in and manipulated the CGI.
I didn't know that.
Make them look like they were talking to the scene.
Yeah. And I always find that hard, and I think you're right, because the eye can detect phoniness. It can detect something that's not real. And when you look at animals that are beautiful and then they're just going to start talking all of a sudden in the mouth, if you don't get all that stuff right, and at
they're
some
not
point,
as expressive as the animated.
Exactly.
Course, so Timon is not going to come off as funny, with the little hula dress, right?
Yeah.
When they're doing that song, or Pumbaa farting,
Why wasn't the warthog cute? Because warthogs are not cute.
Yeah, they're ugly creatures.
Yeah, I just think that there's some films that when they're animated, I think it serves.
And already it's really taken a beating critic-wise. Yeah. But this kind of film is critic-proof. People are going to take their kids to go see it because it's summer and kids need something to go see and entertained. And some adults, they're going to get that nostalgia and go see it because, they grew up with the original Lion King. Let's go look at the new Lion King and hear the new songs. And Beyonce's in it. Oh, we got to hear Beyonce. But for me, no interest at all.
Yeah, I don't blame you. And I'm not feeling it as well.
That's probably why there's no other good films coming out, is because of that. Nobody wants to go up against it, right?
See, and that is the whole idea behind it. The strategy kind of sucks in a way
Disney
because
is destroying cinema.
Yeah.
And
because they have the money. They have so much money that they go, we can afford to fail if this flops because we've made so much money with everything else. So them just throwing things out there just because they can, like you said earlier.
Dumbo was a flop.
Yeah.
They're eating themselves.
And it's almost, and again, it goes back to, this is supposed to be one of the most creative mediums. And it's like at some point, just telling something again, it's already been told before, with just because you got better CGI, that's not good enough. That's not good enough. And so what I'm trying to find out is, why can't we just, if you like that, why can't we just find a variation and say, hey, in that universe, let's just go here with it, though we haven't focused on this before or something, like Star Wars, for example, right? There was no reason to try to keep picking up the episodes after this. They should have just taken a part of that universe and just done a film around that. I
totally agree with that.
But here, what they're showing us is that, hey, we got the money. We can do whatever we want. We know that this will make some money, and it is, because so far in 2019, this is in the top 5 of top grossing films already. This film, this one, and Toy Story 4, which I think is also the same problem as well. And so at some point, you're going to get people dulled to the idea of a sequel just because you want to keep making more reboots of certain things or whatever, or reimaginings, that people are just going to be like,
or if you're going to remake a live action version, do something interesting. Remember that it was Treasure Island, but it was in space. Wasn't that a Disney movie? It was called Treasure.
I do remember that, but I'm not sure.
Something 2000 AD or something like that. I don't know what it was, but
yeah,
I'd love to see a live action version of that.
We're Disney. We own 3/4 of your childhood. We'll do what we want when we want. People ask, why treat the audience this way? Because fuck them, that's why.
Because we want all their money.
That's right. We can never get enough of their money.
We got your Avengers money. Now we're going to get your Lion King money.
That's right. We're not done with that.
We ain't got a Pixar film right now. Hey.
Wait till we reboot the X-Men.
Yeah, we're going to do Lady and the Tramp, but here's how we're going to change it. We're going to call it Lady and the Chump.
Yeah,
but same idea.
They're already casting, or fan casting, I guess. Logan, Wolverine.
No,
who's going to be the new Wolverine?
Yeah, I've saw
Tom Holland or some bullshit little English actor,
So you kind of get our idea about that film. Let's see. So David Crosby, right? Remember My Name documentary. So the factuals on this: 1 hour and 35 minutes. Thank God. Director is A.J. Eaton, and the actor, of course, is David Crosby as himself, and all the other people that he knows as himself. And so the commercial, or the trailer for this, tells us that he's had 3 heart attacks and doesn't understand why he's still alive. He's been in trouble with the law on many occasions.
Has he had like a heart transplant?
He's so many stents in his heart, from what I understand right now. And then, of course, like typical but still untypical in a way, his former bandmates from Crappy Still Nash, cannot stand him.
Nobody can stand him. That's the thing. Nobody likes this guy.
He looks like a walrus.
But we got to remember his name, and we got to give him a documentary because somehow he belongs up there.
Well, he really is a great musician. He's just a terrible human being.
Yes. Yeah.
Crosby, Still Nash and Young made some amazing music together.
And he was in 2 other bands as well before that, right? So the Three Dog Night, it was one of them, I thought. And then so we need this now, I guess, because of Rocket Man and Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah,
but
they're trying to capture the historical that era. They came out with a documentary about Mulholland, the music scene of the Hollywood Hills. All those guys, they had their studios in their houses. They were making music, and neighbor would come over to another and throw down some jams and record and stuff. I can't remember that documentary though. It's Mulholland something. So they're trying to, I guess, document that history. The 60s music.
Yeah.
60s is big again, I guess.
It seems like that's the thing now. You just got to sell the nostalgia, right? Here's our movies. We're going to recapture the 70s. We're going to recapture the 80s. We're going to recapture the 90s. I'm going to recapture the 60s. Right? And before long, we'll be back in 1912 or something. We keep going back to these different.
You know what? You know how everyone else's music sucks? Well, we're just going to prove it one more time.
That's right.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And the third pick for this weekend, we were going to start rolling here a bit. Into the Ashes. So this is a crime mystery drama type film. It's also an hour and 38 minutes. So it's also right there with David Crosby in terms of the time. The director is Aaron Harvey, and the actors Luke Grimes, Frank Grillo, who you remember as Crossbones, and Luke Grimes actually is in something we're going to talk about in the Just Seen It, because he's in Yellowstone. He's also in this. And so kind of the tropish in the sense that in terms of the plot, that the synopsis is that here's a guy who was engaged in some criminal activity, left that life because he met a good woman, and the police chief is his father-in-law. And yet when the gang finally gets out, they have some comeuppance and some revenge that they want to put on him because of some things that he stole and some things that he had done. And so, we've seen this before about what's the old saying about, when I try to get out, they pull me back in kind of thing. Although the twist is supposed to be that it's a father-in-law is the cop or the major detective there that, he's got this wife and he loves, and that's her dad, and there's already tension because his criminal activity anyways, and yet it's not just the wife that he's going to let down, but here's this father-in-law who's also pressing on him like, if you do this, I got to take you down. Even though you'd be right to defend yourself from these dudes who are coming after you, I still would have to take you down. I mean, so there's a little tension, a little wrinkle in it. But Into the Ashes, actually, those are our three films. Carlos, which one sounds like one you'd want to watch?
None of them.
None of them?
No.
Okay.
Stay home and watch Netflix.
Big zero. Netflix night.
0 for 0.
So if you had to, okay, Zach, watch any one of these three, which three would you choose?
I'm opting for option D, none of them, and I'm staying home and watching the Joe Bob Last Driving Marathon of Shudder.
Oh, nice.
And there it is. And so now it's me. Will I also go with the trifecta here? Give us a hat trick here. I will say out of all three of these, certainly not interested. But if I were to pick one, if I were to pick one, it might just be Into the Ashes, only because of Luke Grimes, and I'll explain this more in the next segment. But pretty much, I just stay home and pull out my favorite trilogy and watch it, and it would probably be Batman, and then it'd be the original Star Wars trilogy, and then I'd call it a night. So I think that's where we go with segment 2. So just like that, let's get ready, folks. Y'all are ready for this is segment 3 now. We're going to jump into Just Seen It. That's right. So, Carlos, you've seen a movie. It was?
Saw Midsummer.
Ari
Aster. Oh, my God. This movie. Amazing. I guess it'd be considered a horror movie, although it's not scary. There's no real jump scares or anything like that.
It's a full quarter film.
Yeah. I guess you could most closely compare it to The Wicker Man. Takes place in Sweden. Starts out in the United States. Stars Florence Pugh, who is incredible in this movie. Her performance, she's a millennial type, college age. There's been some family tragedy. She's got a boyfriend. They're having a real rough relationship. And they all end up making a trip with his friends to Sweden to visit one of their friends who's from there. And they're
Sweden?
having
the horror capital of the world?
Yeah. And amazing enough, most of this movie takes place during the day. It's all day long.
Holy
9
snap.
o'clock at night, it's daytime. Because this is summer solstice. And
holy snap, Batman.
That's when their festivities take place. But as the movie goes on, it's a real mood piece. Ari Aster sets a real mood, and it's very unsettling. It's very disturbing. You don't know what the F is going to happen next, and by the end of the movie, it goes nuts. It's like an acid trip almost. And there's a there's a lot of drug taking in the movie.
Wow.
It's very graphic, nudity and sex, and I mean, there's one big sex scene, but
Was that like Eyes Wide Shut?
It's people. A lot of people found it very comedic. And Will Poulter is in it, and his character is comedic, and he has some of the best stuff in it. Do you know who Will Poulter is from? Do you ever see Detroit, the movie?
I haven't. That's one of the movies that is still on my list.
He was in that Black Mirror episode too, where he played like a video game programmer.
Okay.
Bandersnatch.
Bandersnatch. And he has a very unusual look to him, and he would actually make it like a good Joker because he's got that weird face,
Well, I think he was one of the original people to be cast to play Pennywise.
Really?
Yeah,
Before
that's
they-
what I was
before they
thinking too.
changed
Like
before they changed
Pennywise, he would
directors.
make a great Pennywise.
Yeah.
But Florence Pugh, oh my God, I would be surprised if this movie got her some nominations, at least like Golden Globes or something, if not Academy Award. She's the type of person that suffers from panic attacks, and is probably one of the most realistic depictions of a person having a panic attack that you will ever see on film.
Wow.
But yeah, it's very hardcore, very heavy, very disturbing. And I don't know if I'd recommend it to everybody, but Ari Aster, he made Hereditary. I didn't like Hereditary as much. I could appreciate it for what it was because it's so different from the normal horror movie. He's an interesting director. I mean, I don't know where he comes up with his ideas, but he described his own movie as something like Wizard of Oz for perverts.
A Wizard of Oz for perverts.
Like,
wow.
Okay, that's a weird way of putting your movie.
Bold statement, sir.
But
Breakfast cereal for streakers.
they call these elevated horror films. They're not the cheapy, Conjuring type stuff. They're more. I don't know. Visually, it's incredible, incredibly shot. Like I said, it's during the day. The production and design is incredible. The costumes, There's a scene where her boyfriend goes into the house of this woman who's asking him questions, and on the wall it's just covered with these prints, these almost like block prints.
Sure.
And each one is different, and they're all incredibly detailed. And the settings, and there's one scene there is just shocking. It's just like, wow. It's like some people, if you have very sensitive sensibilities or whatever, you would be really. I've heard people walked out of the movie, but I've seen worse than this. But I loved it. Even the final shot. A lot of people had problems with the ending, but
all the Fantastic Four films are worse than.
And then I also saw Crawl on Friday.
You saw Crawl. All right.
Alexandre Asia, the guy who did High Tension, probably one of those hardcore French horror movies that you'll ever see. And then he remade the Wes Craven Hills Have Eyes. This is more, I guess, generic horror. It is pretty graphic in some scenes. You'll see broken bones and bones sticking out and stuff like
compound
that.
fractures.
It's a monster movie, it's Jaws type.
Yeah, and they're like alligators or something.
And the thing is,
Alligators in a floodplain.
Ah, okay.
yeah, it's Florida. There's a hurricane coming. The water's elevated, and then there's alligators everywhere because there was an alligator farm nearby.
Sure.
But there's alligators everywhere anyway in Florida.
Yeah.
Scaladerio, the actress, Barry Pepper, plays her dad, and they actually do a pretty decent job of giving these characters more than they use. They're not like the typical cutout characters that you're used to seeing in horror films. They actually give them a little backstory and family dynamics and things like that. So it's pretty decent. I mean, it was entertaining.
Okay.
Popcorn
All
movie,
right.
Friday
Gotta have
night.
some of that, right?
Fun to watch with a big audience. Everybody screaming.
Sure.
It does have jump scares, and they got me.
They got you a couple times.
Shit.
Oh boy.
And it's one of those movies like after the first 15 minutes where it starts getting intense, like I was nervous the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
Because that's a good thing is when they make the characters interesting, you do get nervous for them, or you feel for them, or you have empathy for them, and you don't want them to get hurt. You want them to get away, whatever.
Yeah.
So
Character investment, yeah. Well, I happened to see just one film in the theater in between the last time. Another music film. So Yesterday, that's the film that I saw. So right off the bat, I guess the first thing I should say, because, you know, when you talk about this, the Beatle fans, you know, they're going to scoot in close as they hear what I have to say about the beloved Beatles, because, you know, you can't say anything about them because you almost think they're the apostles, the John, Peter, Paul.
I know people who hate the Beatles.
Yes, because of that, right? And so this film, I will say it this way. If you're a huge Beatle fan, you may take exception to the fact that it's the actor that's singing the songs, not the real Beatles singing it, so they don't do that. It's him really doing his rendition and version of it with an acoustic guitar. So if you want to hear just like it sounded on vinyl back then in the 60s, you're not going to get that. So that may offend some of the Beatle fans. The other Beatle fans who are just glad to see anything about the Beatles come out are going to still ignore probably some of that and just say, I love this film or whichever. Now, myself, as I saw this film, again, I thought it was an interesting twist. It's a guy that lives in a world where this miracle thing happens, and it's a world without the Beatles that no one knows that the Beatles ever existed. So every song that he does that's the Beatles, they think he wrote it, and they think, oh, this great guy, this great songwriter. And so
how'd you come up
he's
with that?
struggling as an artist, and he's like, I guess I'll just roll with it since everybody thinks I wrote this. And so there's several other things that when the miracle happened that people don't know about either. So people don't know about cigarettes. They didn't know about Coca-Cola.
Oh, wow.
And they didn't know about the band, that band that kind of sounded like them, that had the song, Maybe Save Me. Oasis, yes.
Oh, no.
They don't know about Beatles, Oasis, Coca-Cola, or cigarettes
That's
for some
hilarious.
reason.
Oh,
And
wow.
Lord of the Rings.
Oh, my God. I need to
So
see
it has a great premise, and I loved some of it. But the unfortunate part about this film is it's a romantic comedy with the Beatles as kind of the backdrop, and the
comedy.
tropes of this is absolutely ridiculous. And
Lily
you just
James is
don't
in it,
feel
right?
it. Lily James is in
Lily
it,
James.
and the actor does it
Smoking.
that's playing the lead character. He does a good job. I think it's Amish. He does a great job. Amish Patel. It's not that he's not likable, but it's just like the situations that the expectations people have is, okay, Beatles, okay, starving artist, great, let's see this. But then as you see these sequences of him and the girl that he never really spoke up to and never stepped to, even though she's always like, you just don't buy it, or you don't even care, because that's not why you're there. You're not there for a romance story. You're there to see, okay, let's see the struggling artist. Let's see you reconcile this and see how you use this great idea. But really it just turns out that, hey, it's about whether he'll finally get the nutsack to step up to this girl that's liked him for 20
Really,
years.
that's what it's about.
That's what it
Wow.
ends up coming down
Okay.
to. And that's just a brief synopsis that you could see somewhat in the trailer. So from that perspective, I'll say that I loved the idea of it. Like, imagining a world without the Beatles.
concept is
Right? It'd be like imagining a world without, like, Hendrix or something like that, right? To guitarists.
What if there was
It'd be
no
like, what?
Stanley Kubrick, and then you
What if-
came up with all
exactly.
those
Well,
things?
there's no George Lucas, right? A world without George Lucas, right? So, great idea, I thought, and to break away from just all the other biopics that we're getting in musicals and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's a curious choice to just turn it into a romantic comedy that you just doesn't. And it's British humor too, which sometimes lands and sometimes doesn't.
Well, it's Danny Boyle humor too.
That's true.
Is this a Danny Boyle film?
It is a
Yes,
Danny Boyle film.
It is a Danny Boyle film. Mhm.
And that's a guy who's done everything from Train Spotting to Slumdog Millionaire to
Yes.
28 Days Later.
20 Days later. Yep.
I mean, he was in line to do the Bond film, and he pulled out.
Steve
because
Jobs.
He wants to do films like this.
Great.
And again, I applaud the idea of it. But with you talk about something like this that has a super huge following that is going to look at it pretty critically, just like the way Star Wars fans look at Star Wars films the same way, and Nolan fans would expect certain things out of Nolan, right? As a Beatle fan, I can understand why some of you would like it, and I also understand how you would hate some parts of it. I'm actually a Rolling Stones guy, so that's okay, but we'll just put that out there like that. And real fast, right? So real fast, before we go into segment 3, I'll just say that I did see 2 Netflix features, and I think you should watch them. I would totally say you should watch them, especially instead of these picks of the week. You should watch Yellowstone, which does have Luke Grimes in it and Kevin Costner in it. It was awesome to me. Thought it was great. And also the Jack Ryan film series that's out there right now. I watched just the first season. It's free right now on Prime, and they're trying to get you to pay to see the second one and the third season. But it actually was phenomenal. So I liked both the Jack Ryan and the Yellowstone. I thought they were worthy watches. And in
Oh,
Yellowstone,
by the way, Mad Mel said we should talk more about television series. So
yeah,
you just did.
Well, there we go. We
But
hit
probably
that
more in
quota
detail.
then. Yes, and much more detail if we have more time. But with Yellowstone, I'll just say this: the actress. So Kevin Costner has 3 children.
Okay.
One's a very angry, completely off-putting, but you have to keep watching her. It's almost like the real. Aggressively angry, bitter woman in Dallas. Remember Joan Collins? Everybody loved to hate her. Yeah. Well, this is 10 times better.
Dynasty.
In Dynasty, in terms of Dynasty, in terms of a villain that every time she's on the screen, like the way every time Heath Ledger's on the screen in Batman, you have to watch. Yeah. But it's for a different reason. You have to watch her every time she's on the screen, the daughter, because she just undresses everybody.
Kelly Riley.
She has these ice water vein type stuff. And every time you see her, you go, what's the worst horrible thing she could say next? And right when you think she couldn't say anything more horrible to somebody and dress somebody down, she has it.
That's interesting because in almost every other movie I've seen her in, she usually playing a very meek and mild character. So probably this is something that she probably just chewed into and enjoyed doing.
Yeah, you watch this film, you actually love to hate her. Mm-hmm. You really, really do. There's something that you get out of hating her so bad, right, for what she does. So Yellowstone, if anything, just watch the pilot, and you'll get hooked when you see some of the stories. And by the way, it's written by Taylor Sheridan, who did my favorite movie, Hell or High Water, and then of course Sicario as well. So the writing is tight, and everything that they put in there, it's very plot driven, but also very character driven at the same time. And so you have to check that out. So Yellowstone, I give it a huge thumbs up, and then of course Jack Ryan. That's it. So let's, in our last segment, as we move into it, it is now time for the MILF movie I'd love to fix. And there it is. And that movie would be X-Men Dark Phoenix. So here's what we do with this segment. We'll tell you what's good about it, what's bad about it, and then what we think would have been better ultimately, or to serve the film better in the fix. So first of all, let's start with the good, Carlos. What did you like about this film?
The good Dark Phoenix. I like the opening scene when they went into space, that whole sequence.
Okay.
The action set pieces were pretty decent.
Right.
I mean, compared to Apocalypse, this was like Citizen Kane almost. Mm-hmm. Some of the characters, like Beast, I thought they gave them a little more, oomph to their characters. And by the end, they were actually finally starting to work as a team.
Yeah.
And but yeah, visually stunning. The visual effects were pretty great. I mean, I thought.
Yeah. I would say probably the only good thing I thought from this film was that I actually liked, for a change, that we didn't turn Professor X into just this perfect sage-like guy all the time. I like the fact that they focused on he has a lot of misgivings and failings here, and he does some things. Yes, I like to see him in that way, and I think that was the biggest thing. I don't care about visuals as much anymore these days, because it's almost like, why wouldn't a movie have great visuals in the technology that we have right now?
Some don't.
It's true, some don't, but on superhero films, I've pretty much seen almost everything I could imagine at this point. So to me, what would make superhero films be better is if you could actually tell a good damn story for a change. Because we've seen people punching people through buildings and throwing people across the room and hitting people with moons. I think the way to fix it now is to go to do something else to tell the story. So I would say that's the good. The bad. Let's talk about the bad real quickly, and then we'll get into the fix, and then find a way. So what stood out to you was just something that you just said, man, this almost takes me out of the movie, or you rolled your eyes or sighed?
What really took me out of the movie was Jennifer Lawrence's performance. She seemed very I'm so done with this. Just
cut my check, please.
Let me get out of here so I can make some real movies.
No more blue makeup. Just give me my money.
Not enough Magneto, I guess. I mean, I like the actor.
Yeah.
So
Fassbender's great. Yeah.
It just, I don't know. It seems like everything was just kind of, I don't know, compressed, and let's get the story down to this time limit and hurry up and go quick, and get it over with. But mainly the thing was, okay, after how many films from the first X-Men to this, that's how you end it.
Right.
It was very
and you copy
let down.
A story that
which
you've
already
told
done before,
in Last Stand 13 years before.
Exactly.
So you've got Simon Kinberg, who, failed with Last Stand, telling this story, gets a second chance at it and blows it again.
Even worse, right? And you're right. Even worse. The first one, he just was the writer. This one, they let him write and direct. I'm like, what?
I think the problem was Bryan Singer was supposed to direct it, right? And then he got into all this trouble.
Yeah.
And so, okay, let the most obvious guy take over and do it since he's familiar with all the work.
Yeah.
But the guy's probably just not a good director.
No. And you figure you'd learn from the first one. That's crazy. So I don't know. It's like Josh Trank after Fantastic Four in that way and what had happened there. But this film, I would say also for me, the villain problem, I could care less because Jessica Chastain's awesome. She's a great actress and whatnot, but I felt there was just not very much dimension there.
Very robotic.
Just sucked, very stiff, I just never bought it, even though I know what she's capable of, and that's always hard. I thought Magneto, again, I love Magneto, I love Fassbender, but the problem I had with this was it's almost like if you go watch all the other X-Men films, they almost realize, well, he's our best actor, so let's always continue to keep putting that trope in there where he and X are always going to go. And I'm like, at some point, I'm tired of that. I'm like, there's more he could do than just that. So that was kind of a deal there. And then I had questions, right? So when the film makes me ask questions that don't seem to have any fix for it is, so what's the reason for this cosmic entity anyway? Just to show up all of a sudden and just to say, we want to destroy people. And so without any motivation of this cosmic entity, it's just like, here's a big dust cloud or sun flare or whatever, and it just comes. Okay, so why does it care about destroying the planet? So I find myself just going, I'm disconnected here.
By the way, slight correction. It's not Jessica Chastain. It's Sophie Turner from Game of Thrones.
No, I understand. She's in it as Dark Phoenix, but Jessica Chastain is also in it as
the villain. Yeah.
Was the villain.
My bad. I'm sorry.
Alien.
No, you're good. No, thanks though. Yeah. So I think was most of it, and then also just the fact that you've already mentioned it, Simon Kinberg. Why would you trust him to come back and then actually try to tell the same story yet again? Why does he get a do-over? And then I would ask, to your point, is this what we really needed after Apocalypse? And then I would say another question would be, what about Magneto and his son? And it was supposed to be Quicksilver, yet they didn't even touch on that. They were building it up, right, in Apocalypse. And then we just never got
so many
anything out of it.
Storylines.
So these threads were dropped for what? Just action set pieces, and then the final big crazy, everybody goes all in at the end. I mean, it's like, come on, that's so paint by numbers at this stage of the game, and we just got to ask for better. So let's take a look at the fix real quick as we're rolling right into it. And so, Carlos, what do you think in some way would be something that would have been better or would have resonated more in your mind? And maybe it's just a scene, or maybe it's
just the storyline, the plot. Plotting could have been improved way better. Just dialogue as well.
Yeah,
just kind of tired and nothing memorable about it.
Yeah,
a scene that would stand out, like a scene like from the original X-Men. You always remember that Statue of Liberty scene. That whole Ellis Island sequence. But here it's like, okay, that opening spacing was kind of cool, but it's been done in other movies before.
Yeah,
nothing original came out of it for me. It was all just regurgitated storyline, and the tragedy is that storyline, Dark Phoenix, is probably one of the best well-known storylines in the comics, and man, they just cocked it up, as they say.
They needed that. They needed to do something better with this. And I'll just say real quick the factuals, just for you guys to know, and this is backing up everything, and then I'll tell you what my fix is. This movie only did $64 million domestically and $249 million worldwide. Just to contrast that, The Last Stand, which is also the Dark Phoenix saga, which happened 13 years ago, Domestically, it did 234 million. 234 versus 64 million, right? This is how bad this is.
This is a wrong place, wrong time release for this movie because, I mean, they knew it was a dumpster fire and they had to put it somewhere. So they throw it in the middle of the summer with Avengers Endgame, Spider-Man Far From Home. No, this wasn't going to make jack.
Yeah, no, it was horrible. And the worldwide for The Last Stand 13 years ago did 459 million. Today, worldwide for Dark Phoenix, only 249 million. So it didn't even break half. And so just so you know, in the modern era for X-Men movies, the highest grossing one is Days of Future Past. Did domestically 233 million on its own and has 747 million worldwide. The last X-Men movie, which came down from that, Apocalypse, we should have seen it from Apocalypse. It was 155 million that it did. It couldn't even break the 200, and then it only did 543 million worldwide. So X-Men Apocalypse was starting to see the downtrend from Days of Future Past, and so the fix. Real quick, real simple one. To me, I think this could have been more compelling, and I would have bought it more. Is if the problem with Jean Grey, which is what this is supposed to be about, it's supposed to be about Jean Grey. It would have been better if it wasn't a cosmic cloud that was controlling her. It'd be more interesting to see if it was herself who was doing these evil things, and to see the struggle of she kind of likes doing evil things but know that she shouldn't. I would have liked to have seen that then. Oh, I'm just going to blame it on the cosmic cloud.
Because wasn't that the original story in X-Men 3?
The original story was more about Jean Grey. So powers. I think giving her an out by saying, it's not me, it's the cosmic cloud that got a hold of me, that's not as interesting to tell as it would be as if you saw her going from this transition of I'm good, I'm evil, but also I'm good enough to know that I care about my X-Men, but then at the same time I'm evil. And let's see that tension go back and forth. Right? Yep. And that's, I think, would have been one of the greatest things that they could have done there to kind of salvage that. And then let's turn Sophie loose. She can act. And I thought
she had some great moments in the movie. I was kind of impressed with her performance, but she could have done. They could have given her more to do.
That's it.
For sure.
Absolutely. Well, film fans, that's going to kind of do it for our time today. So we will see you again. We'll go live again on the 28th. So we'll see you then. We'll talk some more about those films. So
super quick, what do you have your tickets for the next 2 weeks?
I'm sorry?
What do you have your tickets for the next 2 weeks?
In the theaters?
Yep.
In the next 2 weeks, probably Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yep.
Is what I'm going to get tickets for.
God, I'd love to be in California watching it at the New Beverly at their Cinerama or something.
I'd love to have my tickets to Denver where they're showing the 70mm print.
Oh, whoa. That's awesome.
Yeah. I can't believe they couldn't do that in Dallas. Because they did it with Hateful Eight.
Yeah,
they did the road show here.
All the Alamos are showing 35, so.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
I hate the
There's that.
Wow.
Shouldn't say that.
Well, birthday boy.
It's his birthday. He can hate who he wants to.
He can say what he wants to. It's his party. He can cry if he wants to.
You would cry too if you had to watch Kevin Costner movies too.
Oh my God.
Maybe he's better on the small screen. So where will they find the Film Samurai? If people want to tell you happy birthday, where will they connect with you?
You can find me on Twitter at Film Samurai and Facebook at Film Samurai.
Excellent. And if you guys want to find me, you can find me on YouTube, the Vegabomber channel. You can find me on Facebook, Vegabomber. Also, I always do this every time too. It's like Twitter. Like I don't know I'm on Twitter.
WhatsApp, TikTok, all the new apps that the kids are coming out with.
Yeah, just have to have them all. Yes.
What's that one new one? Patterns, where it's kind of like an astrological thing that Channing Tatum did some weird video about. No. God, it's ridiculous.
Oh boy,
I guarantee that he was paid to do that.
Yes.
Son of a bitch, trying to act like he was all freaked out by the app.
And that's it. Instagram, Vegabomber. I think it was 007. Someone actually had Vegabomber on Instagram, so that was weird. So it's Vegabomber 007 on Instagram. So that's how you can find us. How can they find you, Kazak?
You can find me every Sunday right here on DallasOnAir.com. You can find me on Talking Nerding to Me Sundays, not only here on Fulfillment, but also on the Vortex of Doom. Coming up next, and you can also find me on the Red Core Pit, Isle of Toys, and Figment's The Unexplained Mysteries podcast.
the hardest working man behind the production booth.
There we go. Get in
Well,
there.
we will see you guys. Shout out to everyone. Let's do a few shout outs as the music plays. So
Mad
shout
Mel.
out to Mad Mel. I want to shout out to Michael Paul, who's always been supporting and watching as well. And Stephanie Crane, who watches us live.
Stephanie.
The music takes control.
Sayonara.
See you guys. We're outie. Like Kurt Gowdy.
This is DallasOnAir.com.